few days ago, the Smithsonian Museum of African American History made headlines online for its take on what they refer to as whiteness, implying that there are behaviors related to race, and implying that basing ourselves on the scientific method, working hard, and being polite are white behaviors. Is it accurate? Is it white to be polite? To work hard? To be logical? Stay tuned until the end and let's find it out together. Here we go! Hi guys, welcome to Reality Explaining. If you like this content, subscribe and share. As you might know, here at the office, we come from the Caribbean. Ya tú sabes, mami. Most of Caribbeans, as well as many Latin Americans, are African descendants, yours included. So we're gonna review what's the buzz with this pamphlet, and we're gonna review it from a sort of external cultural perspective, different from the racial dichotomy of blacks versus whites in America. For a start, context. The National Museum of African American History and Culture is a Smithsonian museum located on the National Mall in Washington, D.C. So this is paid with your hard-earned tax dollars. This is the first thing to consider. This is the pamphlet, Aspects and Assumptions of Whiteness and White Culture in the United States. Here we go. Aspects and assumptions. Aspects and assumptions are two different things. An aspect is something concrete, and an assumption is just an idea of what some people think other people do. So, which is it? None of them are differentiated in this pamphlet. White dominant culture. White dominant culture is not a thing. Behaviors are not born from your skin tone. This is a fiction. There is no scientific evidence inside the framework of reality that supports the idea that a set of behaviors is the result of the race of that group of people committing those behaviors. This is pure BS. And this is the danger of attempting to differentiate people's behaviors by race. And it's very short-sighted. What about whiteness outside the USA? Is it different? If it is it really whiteness if it changes from country to country? The lack of coherence, wow! And these are just the three first words in the pamphlet. Whiteness referred to the ways white people and their traditions, etc., have been normalized and now are considered as standard practices in the United States. This is a clear resentful attempt to make an us versus them. Culture doesn't transpire from race. Just look at the comedian and actress Tiffany Haddish. She recently converted to Judaism and its correlated culture. Culture doesn't come from race. We all have internalized some aspects of white culture, including people of color. What? Seems like a pretext to call well-adjusted black men Uncle Toms. This is crazy. They are making a parallel between color of skin and culture. This is already a traveling concept. But wait, this is just a start. From here on, the Smithsonian goes off accusing Caucasians of being the creators and owners of so many things. Let's start. Rugged individualism. The individual is the primary unit. Of course the individual is the primary unit. You cannot divide an individual. The individual is the primary unit. Who wrote this thing?
Crap.
It goes, independence and autonomy are highly valued. I'm gonna be condescending here. Honey, no woman appreciates a dependent and weak man. Nowhere in the world. This is not white stuff. What the heck? The nuclear family has a father, a mother, and children, ideally. This happens everywhere in the world, and we know as evidence is clear in this matter that two parental figures raise more stable children. So yeah, most families in the world have a mama and a papa. But you start to see where they are going, right? Most of African Americans don't hold other black people accountable for their quote-unquote sins. I've witnessed that it's normal that missing fathers in the black community in America are not socially punished for knocking up a woman or several women and immediately leave them. There is no scream for rejection, there is no cancellation, there is no reprehension of no accountability. In exchange, the most usual setting of a family in our entire species, all over the entire planetary sphere's surface, meaning two parents and their children, is labeled as a white construct. It's not. Having two parents living together with you is not white. It's human regardless of their race. Smithsonian cut it off. Now, the idea that the husband is the breadwinner is outdated data. We, the Western world, have been running an experiment of female independence for a century. Women work outside their homes massively since several decades ago. This breadwinner stuff is BS. Women is a homemaker and a subordinate to the husband? Where? Show me the evidence. We live in a paradigm of female liberation, not subordinates. BS. Homemaker? All women stay at home while the man works? Such a flagrant lie. Most of women work, and those who don't and stay at home are not subordinates to their husband. They are a team. In any case, it's their consensual decision for this minority of women who don't work and instead stay at home to raise their children to do so. Why the hate against women and their free decisions in a free world? If some women decide to stay at home and raise their children, it's their decision, not yours. Most of women work outside home. Some stay at home and raise their children. This happens all over the world. It's not whiteness. White children have their own rooms. Nope, not a white thing. It's basic intelligence to separate the parents' room and their mating from their children. Is the Smithsonian implying that people of color have relationships in the same room where their children sleep? That is horribly racist against people of color. And I am people of color. Cut it off. And the cringe continues. Emphasis on the scientific method. This is horribly racist against black people. So, are black people a bunch of retards that fail to identify the basics of the existence of reality and so fail to apply the universal scientific method? The bigotry of these people with their assumptions, oh my dear. Objective rational thinking is white, they say. This is so bigoted against African Americans. Objective rational thinking is the default of thinking in most of Asia, including 1.8 billions of Chinese people. Is the default in Latin America, in Europe, in North America, almost everywhere. And it's been like that since the era of enlightenment, like 400 years ago. It is desirable to be rational instead of emotional and observe reality from an objective perspective. Anything away from an objective observation of reality is stupid. But the Smithsonian is applying this stupidity. This is also an attack on rational thinking, the most important paradigm of thinking ever created by the most advanced and intelligent species in the known universe is being as white. Oh my god! Rational thinking is not white! It's human regardless of their race. What is this?
Crap.
Cause and effect relationships. That's called determinism. You commit a felony, you should pay a price for that felony. It's only logical. Again, stating that this is white stuff, it's horribly bigoted against people of color. Causes have effects. Actions have reactions. Misdemeanors have their consequential consequences. There is nothing white on that understanding. It's human regardless of their race. History based on European migrants. That's a lie. There is a Black History Month and Black historical figures are celebrated, not only European related history. The primacy of Western tradition. What do these folks expect from a Western country? Smithsonian guys, the United States of America is a Western country, consequently based in the amazing ideas of the ancient Greece and the Roman Empire. That was the birthplace of the Western civilization. It's only logical that the States is a Western country, and so is Latin America, and that is not white. People ignore this, but the ancient Greek mythology character of Oedipus, symbolizing the rational thinking of the Greeks, defeats the Sphinx, a lack of coherence symbol of the decadent Egyptian thinking. What thinking prevailed? Yep, ancient Greek thinking. It's only logical. Get it? Now, this is the part in which the pamphlet makes the strongest, most bigoted, racist statements against POC so far. They linked hard work to being white. What? Let me repeat that. What? Hard work is not white. It's not. It's human regardless of their race. It's a basic survival strategy most of humans apply, at least most of the successful ones. You find Asian hardworking people, African hardworking people, European hardworking people, Latin American and North American hardworking people. It has nothing to do with race. Don't attribute that to whites. It's racist and bigoted against people of color. Basically everybody else in the world. What is wrong with these people? They continue. Christianity is the norm. Anything else is foreign. Nope. Rationalism is an opposing view against evangelism and Catholicism, and it's well established in the law and in government in general. Atheism is the basis of many people who identify as Jewish or Christian, so no, it's not the norm. Where do you live? Who is the mediocre person who came up with this middle school chart? They continue, and quote, respect for authority, end quote. Respect authority is not white. It's human regardless of their race. What does that mean? That black people are disobedient by default? What? Oh my god, the racism in this thing is crazy. Wealth is worth. That is not white. It's human regardless of their race. Women tend to date successful men. Ergo, in order to successfully mate, it's important for males to have certain status. It's not a white thing. Royalty in Arab oil countries get their cars and palaces plated in gold. Wealth as worth is not a white thing. Value on property. What's their bet here? That people should reject ownership of their properties? Black dictators in Africa mass millions of acres of land and oil development for themselves. Valuing property is not a white thing. It's human regardless of their race. Regarding delayed gratification, first of all, it's very difficult. And second, it's not white. Progress is always best? How is that a descriptor of whiteness? Progress is always best for everybody in the world. Again, not a white thing. It's human regardless of their race. Holidays based on Christianity and white historical titles. A lie. American history celebrates also black figures. On religious holidays, what do you expect? It's a predominant part of culture. At least in that aspect, it also happens in Latin American countries, where the Caucasian population is basically non-existing. It's not a white thing. Western religiosity is not really religious. Most people are moderates. They say they believe, but they don't. Or do you see evangelicals killing the quote-unquote Gentiles? No, not really religious. More moderate. Anyway, Western religious traditions are based on the Jewish mythology, which is Middle Eastern culture. In their description of white justice, what do they mean? All the modern world is based on English common law, specifically for the rationalism it is based on. It's also the default in Latin American countries and all the Western world. It's not a white thing. This is like an attempt to disregard Western values in a Western country. Why? The Western civilization is by far, and listen to this, by far the best civilization ever created, and the West is the inventor of most of the greatest ideas ever conceived by our species. Rationalism, philosophy, democracy, math, universal human value, human rights, modern rational law, coherent architecture and urbanism, industrialization, modern medicine, modern commerce, indoor plumbing, and so many more. And yes, it's important to protect property. Our families live in our properties, and if we don't protect property, how are we gonna protect our families in them and our survival? This is not a white thing. People value property all over the world. This whole thing has been so stupid. They continue, intent counts for white people. Of course, intent counts here and everywhere. This is protective of their group. Black men commit crimes disproportionately more than any other group in the United States. This is just an attempt to justify the idea that intent of committing a crime should not be punished. Sorry, fellows, intent counts here and everywhere in the world. This is not a white thing. Finally, competitive behavior. Again, not a white thing. Africans, for example, compete in the Olympics and they are not white, they are not Western, they are black. But you see the identity politics in all this, right? that stupid idea of participation trophies to create an entire generation of people incapable of dealing with any given micro-frustration. Microaggressions, they call them. They rather set everything on fire to feel that they want something. Sounds familiar? In conclusion, after our Caribbean review of this whole mess, this whole thing resulted to be the most anti-black, anti-people of color, racist and bigoted thing that you will ever see probably in years. They attribute things that are universal to everybody in our species all over the entire planetary sphere surface. They attribute them to whiteness and white identity. There was nothing white on that. Who is the middle school idiot that wrote this? Is the Smithsonian still working with this person? If so, why? Nothing of this was white. This is just divisive, and it is paid with your taxes.
Crap.
And the website still holds several identitarian ideas trashing on white people only for the color of their skin, anti-white racism. As we know, there is no relationship between culture and race. That's why the Caribbean culture is replacing the so-called black culture in the United States. Because they are the same. Culture doesn't come from race. This was our reality explaining on this topic. What is your take on this pamphlet? Do you agree? Disagree? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to engage. Don't let fictions take over. Speak, comment, tweet, share this content. You can support our work at Patreon and subscribe start with the username RealityExplaining. Thank you in advance. See you in the comments. Bye bye.